Hi guys, it's Alan. Again, part of the targeted individual program here, and sweaty. And again, I'm doing this one on the issue of when you're part of this program, a lot of the things that they will do to you, as far as they'll have things that mimic normal physical ailments, like they can use the microwave radiation to pinpoint areas of the body, and it can be coughing. It can be. I've heard people talk about hitting the eyes. They know parts of the brain that they can hit, that can actually manifest or trigger an output, whether scratchy throat, massive headaches, and of course, when you have V2K and you sound like I'm hearing voices or something, if it's a psychologist or a doctor who's never heard of this stuff. And since the majority of psychologists and probably medical doctors have never seen the White House bioethics meeting in 2011 and 2012, the White House under Barack Obama, he had started the bioethics meeting, and I don't know how many years back before him, but in 2011 and 2012. You can look it up on YouTube or even on my own YouTube channel. I think I've got a copy or two. I think James Lyko has got both years on there too. Or 2012 Targeted Individual Evidence on YouTube also. And it shows how much black ops money, I don't know what the tech terms, black ops or secret money, that they've been putting up into neuroscience and figuring out, not just to help people, which we're all behind helping people, but to figuring out how to torture people. It's like gain of function. Let's figure out how to make an illness that doesn't exist and create a coronavirus and have it take over the world, although that's not our intention. But whoops, some lady accidentally or some guy accidentally just let it get out of a lab or get out of a meat market. And it's like, right. And, accidents do happen. Sorry. They make these things with so much security. And, right now there's another, here in the U.S., all the masks are being lifted. But in China and Taiwan and Hong Kong, there's suddenly this outbreak of 3,000 people. And in China, another outbreak. Now, we put all this closure in when there's only a few people in Japan, a few people in China, and actually China. And they were just starting to form. But we instantly locked down. Look what happened. We're taking the masks off. And in Hong Kong and Vietnam, where they didn't have any of this breakout at all. And now they're getting this breakout. And I'm not saying good or bad whether we, as far as keeping masks on and 6 feet and that whole thing and how many booster shots. But literally, when you're part of the TI program, they're literally trying to get rid of us and torture us. And the fact they were doing this to us, and the police and sheriff's department were behind this, and they're still covering their mouths. They're still not. They get so much money to shut up and not just, they get paid to torture people, and they're just like any corrupt organization. They always say, let's drain the swamp. Washington, D.C. is such a swamp. Well, for them to be a swamp, there's got to be people taking that money. And unfortunately, if you're from a religious little town like I am, where they're very proud of their religious upbringing, which I thought was a great thing. I thought good people, I didn't think that they would ever be they would hear this. I would have bet a year's salary that they would never do something so gross, so corrupt to even one child. as but to cover up a torture thing. In my case, for over 30 years, 35 years actually. And this is when I was in high school and on my way to Bible college, and never hurt anybody. I was most friendliest in my class. But anyway, I'm going off on that tangent again. Voice to skull and synthetic telepathy, which is when you hear these voice to skull handlers, and you can hear them. I mean, I can hear them now, but again, it's the people in your town who just decided to, and I didn't have any enemies, so it's not like I pissed off anybody. I didn't have everybody as a friend either, but I just didn't have any enemies. I got along with pretty much everybody. My place was good where I worked. Any professional people that I had, or pastors or doctors, or police, I thought they were fine. Sheriffs and all that. But the only thing I did know is that I constantly, and I just figured it was scrupulosity, just kind of some OCD, but always thinking about religion and apologetics and is this ethical? Is this right? Is this... Now, normally I'd go have a beer or go home and have a beer after work. Now, for some people, that's the bad thing too, but I just don't. Whatever goes in, nothing that enters a man can defile a man, only that, because you eat it, it comes out in the drought. Only the things that come out of the man's from the heart, and that's what defiles the man. You have to find a Bible verse if you want to find that. But what's weird is that they try to blame, the other physical characteristics is that I've always had this side pain that would just hit me. And I literally would, be constantly thinking about God. It's like, well, I want to know what this is and please heal it. But I've just figured whenever I die, that's the first thing I wanted to ask, as if everybody has a one-on-one session with God, to find out. And then I thought it'd be but I was constantly thinking to myself, what is it? I want it fixed. And I never thought ever, when I broke my arm in football, I thought, well, maybe I broke my arm up here, but nothing up there is going to happen, hurt way down here. And it didn't, and not until months later, where a quick jab, and then it just progressively got worse. And nothing from up here is going to go down here, and suddenly, but I had I just thought, well, maybe the stress of me being stressed of religion and theology and apologetics and studying secular humanism and anxiety and doubt about that. It's like Robert Duncan, Dr. Duncan, talking about religious scripts, and I can concur. Whether it's scrupulosity, a lot of religion with OCD, but I just knew, had a very sensitive conscience, making sure that you don't hurt anybody. I mean, I did that to the point where even when you can look back at your life and they can look at your memories, I knew I was proud. Maybe that's a bad thing too. I always heard that you can't be proud and be humble, but it's kind of like you can be so humble and so looking at yourself, trying to nitpick everything that could be rude or ruminate over your day. Was I mean to somebody? I got to make this right. I mean, just constantly picking apart your day, ruminating, did I hurt someone's feelings or did I do something wrong? But the truth of the matter is I just knew from the get-go not to do something that would hurt somebody. So I became more introverted. But I'd made mistakes. I remember a couple of times just, rather than getting in an argument, I'd just go off and have a few beers and, maybe have too much. I did that maybe about 3 times in my life and just got sick and vomited, And then one time somebody had to pick me up. That's the only time where it's actually affected somebody else. But again, it wasn't like me putting the moves on somebody who's married, and they're married with their spouse and all that. That's about it. I think one time there was a lady that had recently separated, getting a divorce for like a week and a half, and then she asked me out. That's about the closest thing. But again, separated, getting a divorce for about a week and a half, and then she asked me out. That's about the closest thing like that. So, but yeah, I never actually hurt anybody. So I didn't have anybody to, but they went on. I 30 years wondering what the side pain was, and I didn't know about targeted individuals or directed energy or dues, direct energy weapons. But when they started doing V2K, I just knew somebody was screwing with me, effing with me. And I knew, I just knew, because first, like in the background, in the backyard, I'd be having a smoke. And then I could, I could hear this, what sounded like a camera flashing. This, and I'd go out there and hear this and like a camera flashing, like, not flashing, but a shutter, like. So I go out there and I didn't freak out. I just figured, well, whoever it is, they'll find out just by whatever it's about. I don't know. But I'm not going to freak out. And whatever it is, they're going to find out that I'm not a threat. I'm not hurting anybody or doing anything wrong. So let them shoot away. Let them do their little whatever. And I knew something was wrong and weird. And then later that progressed to people with the phones and holding up the phones and, that kind of thing and hoping you freak out at them. I just knew something weird was going on. And a couple of times it was weird. Somebody at work would be yelling like something like cop. So it just seemed like a weird thing because I never gotten anybody in trouble for anything either. I just kept everything just... I think I would step in if I saw somebody doing something to hurt some other person, but I don't care if people are doing something illegal. I could care less. But if they're hurting someone, that's a different issue. That's when, and if you think you can, that's another issue. But I've never called the cops on anybody and never gotten anybody in trouble for anything either because I really never saw it. And I worked as a CNA and as a caregiver, and I never seen anybody, bash or hurt or, with residents either. So, but the idea that they would do this to me, and what happened is that I didn't have any enemies. It's just literally for 30 years since in high school and then Bible college, getting this sharp pain. And I toughed it out for a few years. I still tried to, doctor in North Dakota and then come back and they had TENS units and a shot with something, lidocaine, lidoderm, and psychosomatic as an antidepressant, and never for one moment thinking, well, these are nice people in Dallas, Oregon. They wouldn't do that. They're very nice, conservative, religious, very proud of it, but old-fashioned values, very drain the swamp, against government corruption, the whole bit, very vocal about it. We need more old-fashioned conservative values, the whole bit, honesty, character, and the idea that for 30 years they knowingly went along with the torture, with this torture stuff, my side. Now, I don't know if me thinking about constantly thinking of, even on their street theater that they do, one of their, two of them, not one, two of them, where they did it at the bus depot, and they stopped. They had about 30 people all at once came up and did this thing and hold up their phone. And then they said, like some person come up and said, you think too much about religion. And I was like, I'm thinking, well, okay, well, I'm thinking, how did they know that? But I've always known that. I've always thought about that, or apologetics, or humanism. At first, because atheists were kind of the enemy, because I wanted to get rid of my doubts. But a lot of atheists are wonderful people, just like there's a lot of wonderful religious people that are wonderful. But coming from this, I realized there's a lot of just shitty religious people that will sell you over to be tortured, just like the priests that molest kids. And then they'll get their friends to help cover it up. I mean, molesting kids, a couple times, or torturing somebody every day for 30 years and just not saying anything or stopping it or telling me about it, what's causing it. I mean, they're just as gross. Hey, Keith. I'm sorry I didn't see you here. We have to get this info out to as many as possible, and I agree. Random live streams are a great place to expose these war crimes. Direct email to journalists is a good way too. Change depends on us. I know I did that to the paper in Dallas. I went there. Well, once was closed. The other time, I went there and I showed one of the pamphlets. I gave it to her, and these screens are coming up blocking what's being written. And so I gave her one from the Portland rally for Ella Free, and I left it there. And then I put some in the Dallas at the city hall. About 2 or 3 times I had put the little flyers inside the Dallas City Hall. And this is after I had to learn to walk again from falling out of a window. And I didn't realize that's, they're putting the sounds through the flooring and all that. And I didn't realize I was part of I knew somebody was fucking with me, but I didn't want to do slander and accuse the wrong person. I didn't have any enemies. So I'm trying to think, well, who and why and what. And for the first time in my life, I went to City Hall and just like, is there something wrong? Do I have what do they call it? Is there a warrant out? I didn't have, I didn't think anything. I didn't hurt anybody and nobody came up, but it's like, no, what's your name? And the lady acted snooty and just like, but I just know everything. Then the police came, talked to me, and it's like, well, maybe you need to see a psychiatrist. You might need to see a psychologist. And I'm like, oh, okay. And of course, I didn't realize what it was, that they were setting me up for that whole thing, that this shit is actually, I mean, now when you know what you're a part of, and to see these religious conservative people drain the swamp people, and I lived in this town more or less since I was 7. And then I went to a Bible college in North Dakota, being a part of something so gross. I mean, I can see why if people were of any religion, to some it makes them closer to faith and go to it. But it's like and I studied to be a minister myself. It's kind of like that none of these people in the 6 years since had any character or moral anything to come up, and I already know it, and they already know that I know it, because when I had to go to court for spray painting something in front of the police station, like dumbass cops, I wrote, and then V2K I wrote in front of them, so that they would talk about it, so that they would have some reflection, like, hey, maybe this is wrong. And nope. Not in all that time. This is before the whole COVID. It was in 2019, November. And then I had to come back in December, a month later, for the thing. But then COVID started happening. So that was postponed for another months. These loudmouth V2K people attach themselves to us like a vampire. They aren't too bright, I found. They focus on 2 things: my financial situation, my intellect. My intellect is all they do is call me stupid. Yeah. Call a person stupid. Keith, have you had the thing, and it's very common, where you're going to the bathroom or taking a shower and they talk about your wiener being small, or, they make fun of it. If girls, how your boobs look or something. Just very normal. Just making fun of ridicule what you look like naked. The intellect, for me, I admit I spent all my life just studying theology, religious apologetics, and secular humanists, because it was just constantly on my mind, and I didn't have a lot of, and video games. I liked video games, Resident Evil. And so I'm not trying to sound all spiritual. I like to go home, have a couple beers, and have a cigarette. That was my main thing. And not really get wasted or anything. I did a couple times in my life, but just literally 3 times, 4 times. But yeah, and that's all I did was study those things. I don't know how to fix a car. or do anything. I can do little things, but not anything huge. So yeah, I don't mind saying I'm kind of dumb on that stuff. I'm not real smart on it, but I spent my life studying just theology and religion and all that. And to think they did this to me when I didn't have any enemies, I never hurt anybody, and they still went along with this for 35 years, just side pain and not knowing what it is that caused it. And now with Havana syndrome in the news, it's like our government is finally being made ashamed, or it became such a huge that it's hard to make an alibi. So they made this alibi. I don't know if the FBI is, it sucks when people don't believe you. So I don't want to do that to them. But it just seems a weird thing when you're a TI and you know it's being done to everyday people, and people aren't dying off quick enough according to the rules of their game. We're not killing. A lot of us have died, but some of us are sticking around just to give it back to them. And I just think it's disgusting when a very, very much a town like Dallas, very much a 700 club, loving Protestant, and that this, City Hall would go along with something, and then the next day talking about we're going to drain the swamp, we're going to get rid of the corruption, then do the whole bit. And then to be on this side of the targeted individual program, being a TI, and just think these people at the deepest core of their being are just full of shit. They are just full of shit. Their corner of their being, if they could take some old lady and rape her, or protect a priest from molesting a child, or Protestant, even if it doesn't matter, Catholic or Protestant or atheist, I don't know if they're Satanist. I know the majority of the people that are doing it to me are conservative Christians, and they just are. It's Dallas, and some might be Masonic, but I just know they're blaming it on a group of people so that the religious conservatives won't get the fallout for it, but they are. And these are people I thought were good. When I came in and fell out the window and had to learn to walk, the wife of a very prominent person came in, and I didn't know who it was, and I won't say who it was or anything, just because it seemed like a nice person, but it's just like this whole, I thought, oh, what a nice person, just, but then it's like, no, I won't even go into it. I just never heard of this person before, but anyway, when you're in the midst of it, you don't know what it is. And hi, Uncle John. Thank you, my friend. They release Havana syndrome news to desensitize us to the broader genocide that will take place with this. We don't know who's causing it. We do. Look, it happened to CIA officers too. It's not us. I think we do know. I think when we have, it's the military hardware given to a local sheriff's department, and they're the ones who can get their contacts or their CIs to go in. We know that far. I mean, even at the Portland rally, Dr. Matt was talking. It's like it just is. The police are part of it. The sheriff's department's part of it. And in order to have that kind of configuration and that kind of people texting each other what to do, they got to have people at that level of government that can do this. And to have them just, it just makes you wonder. It's like they're serial killers, but they're still pretending to be all conservative or religious. I mean, liberals and Democrats are in it. They're not doing anything any more than the Republicans. Obama did have the 2011 and 2012 and allowed the TIs to talk about it. But when push came to shove, nobody did it. Dennis Kucinich tried to do something. I think Bill Clinton did. And I'm not trying to be all defending of the Democrats. I just know that they did something, and it was under Bush and Cheney that they did the whole Patriot Act. That opened the barn doors to have all this give it legal cover, all the years of this torture, and blame it on the Muslims. And as far as somebody on one side blaming, getting mad at the Democrats or getting mad at the, at the Republicans, it's both sides. I'm sorry to say it. They both know what's going on, and they're both equally not doing it. They're both, Democrats are trying to act like Republicans are getting more mad on Fox News. And yeah, we hate this kind of corruption, and look at the FBI, but they know this stuff's going on. It's all for the stations. CNN is for the Democratic base. Fox, and I watch both. I like people on both channels. Fox News is for the Republican base. That's what it is, and they cater. And there's people on both channels that I like, but it's just that's what it is. It's not one party that's going to save you. It's just because both people on both sides are covering this up. And it's like in Syria when Assad was supposed to be the one that poisoned and chemical stuff on his own people. It wasn't Assad. It was the people doing that to their own group, and then trying to blame it on Assad so that the United States would feel like they have to enter the war because Obama said that they can't cross the line on chemical warfare. So the side that was losing did it to their own people, and trying to force Obama to enter the war because he said that was the line that can't be crossed. So they did it to their own people and said, look, that's what Assad did. And that's like our own people, the people at our city halls, and the people that we thought were good people, that we thought were genuinely decent, good families, just nice people, are getting money for a federal torture program. And part of it has to do with Fauci's. I mean, it's his wife that was part of that at 2011 and 2012 bioethics thing. You can find it on my own website or on James Lyko or 2012 targeted individual evidence. But there's so many of us that are still around that it's just embarrassing that they're going to write about this. And there's so many books already out there on Amazon on this. And they can't, this is going to be one of the biggest, it's like the Catholic Church allowing and moving these pedophiles around. All these little towns and big cities covering this up for a paycheck. It's like these people that claim, and I was raised to be, and I studied to be a Pentecostal pastor myself. So I'm just amazed to see this kind of hypocrisy. That's not hypocrisy. This is a level of cruelty, and I don't see how they can look in the mirror. I agree. I was just given a hypothetical quote that they would give. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. I'm sorry about that. I know what you mean, though. Yeah, it's, hey, we don't look. Yes, I see what you mean. Hey, we don't know who's causing it. Look, it happened to CIA officers, too. I see what you mean. That's how they would answer it. Like, see, they're doing it to us, too. We have no idea. They finally had to admit that it doesn't look like foreign actors. And the CIA guy said, we don't have any hard evidence who's doing it. We don't have any hard evidence. But then 5 minutes before that, they interviewed a guy who wrote one of the little textbook on microwave weaponry. And then they showed 3 on that. It was 60 Minutes about a month and a half ago. You can look it up. I think I have it on my YouTube account. You can look it up there. And it's like the CIA guy, we don't have hard evidence what it is yet. And it's like 5 minutes before that, it shows they interview a guy who wrote a textbook on microwave weaponry. And it shows 3 prototypes of the machines, 3 machines that they used to do this torture. That is the evidence. They showed the actual machine that they used to do this with. And they say, well, just because we can't see the wireless in the air, like I got the internet now, but I can't see the wireless going into my computer. And it's like, okay, there's a machine that does it. They admit that that's a machine that does it. There's 3 versions of it now. They're not, I mean, there's some of the later versions, but that is the hard evidence. And they know it is, but it's just such a, it's like the DNA shows that it's your baby, and you're the only person that's been in that room for the last 9 months with your husband. And it's like, well, it couldn't have been me. Oh, the DNA shows it's me. Well, there must be a ghost out there with same genetics, spiritual genetics, or just that doesn't make sense what I just said. But it makes them look for all their. That's the United States. Amazing technology, shock and awe. But when all the people aren't dying quick enough, and every day they have to live torturing, now it's shucks. Shock and awe at first. This is going to be so great. We're going to get so much money for torturing people. Every day turns into every week, every month. Now it's shucks. This is so bad. Everybody knows about it. It's hard to cover it up now. And it's just like, shucks. It's like the Iraqi war. Weren't weapons of mass destruction. There weren't any promised. Colin Powell, Bush, Cheney, Wolfowitz. And I'm not anti-Republican, but the Democrats went along with it too. And it's just like, this is shock and awe. And 20 years of it, shucks, we really fucked up. And everybody in the world hates us now because what a disaster. Great technology, great weapons, but the leaders of the United States have ruined us. We as a country, they always do this. We need new leadership. We need morals and all this. And they all end up just covering each other's ass every single time. Very labor intensive, capital intensive and time intensive effort to degrade someone. It is totally useless tech for a war. Yeah, it is. I mean, they keep on using the Iraqi war thing, and it's a voice of God. And maybe it does get people to. I don't doubt for Medusa, mob excess deterrent, using silent audio. Medusa, mob excess deterrent, deters a large mob using silent audio. Medusa. And it's to break up whether through sound or heat rays that go, that boils the water underneath the skin. And it's just all this torture tech from space, and it's very impressive technology, billions of dollars to torture people. They should be so proud. But all this drain the swamp, ultimately it means these cops and these people running for government in these little religious towns, it's going to come back and bite them in the ass. That they would do anything. For me, it's been over 30 years and I'm still dealing with it every day. At least in the last 6 years, I know what it is. I mean, with V2K and synthetic telepathy, I now look at the people in my hometown with all that bullshit, and just every time they see me, it's just kind of like, yeah, we know what it's like seeing a priest or a pastor that, that they got caught fucking children or something, and it and they know it, and they can't do their spiritual, religious right and wrong speech anymore because their secrets. So, I mean, if you have secrets, they'll know that about you. I mean, what are they for me? I mean, sure, what in in 7th grade, I looked at a Playboy or something. I mean, that's, no, but I never hurt anybody. So whoop-de-doo. I think I borrowed $1 or took $1 from a friend of mine, and I don't remember paying him back, but I let him stay with me for 5 months, rent-free too. So that's, but I've done stupid things, but I just never done anything to hurt anybody. So nobody likes that holier than thou shit either. But I just knew, whether a sensitive conscience, I just didn't want to hurt somebody in a bad way, because I didn't like it if somebody did that to me. So I just knew that. It was common sense. I could still make a mistake and do something, or I certainly didn't volunteer and help people like I should have. I never did that, really. So I wasn't like that nice like I should have been. William Burns is a liar. They know it because they are in charge. They are in charge of a lot of it, and that's the truth. The CIA has been, it's like the church the church meeting. That's the name of it. I think I forget his name, Fred Church, but in 75, they were trying to burn all the paperwork for MK Ultra, and they weren't able to burn it all. Some of the papers got found, and that started the church meetings and realized MK Ultra. It's a labor. Yes, it is. It is 6:30, and normally my mom gets here around 7:30, but she got called in from 12 to 6, so I got to go and get some dinner ready. So anyway, it's been over a week, so I got to. Anyway, Keith, my friend, and Uncle John, I'll talk to you guys in a few days, I hope. Okay. All right. You keep positive, and I'm going to try the best. I kind of like that I can find out after 30 years what it is, and look. I realize these people, they think I'm an idiot because I never thought they were bad. I thought they were good. But then to find out they were doing this to me, that's who was doing it, was the people in my hometown. I could have not known and just died. I almost did die. And they, because that's what's done for. And even when I had to learn to walk again, nobody had any integrity and said, man, we feel shitty because this is no. They're just a bunch of criminals, even though they have badges. So that's who they are. All right. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Uncle John. All right. I'll see you. I'll talk to you guys in a couple days. Okay. All right. I'll see you then. All right. Bye.